What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we are covering the summoner to end all summoners. That is the Shepherd Druid. So if you guys are excited to figure out how to be a summoner in D&D, which is surprisingly a rare archetype, this might just be the video for you. So make sure that you leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch the channel are not subscribed, so please don't be one of those people. Help us to reach 2,000 by the end of this year. We are on track, but I need your help to get there. And of course, share the video with your friends and click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. So like I said, the Shepherd Druid is really the summoner to end all summoners. There is one other subclass in D&D that kind of functions as a summoner, but that's not until we get to Wizard, so we're still a ways off from talking about that one. But the Shepherd Druid really scratches an itch in D&D, which is that of a summoner, which is something very common in plenty of video games and plenty of other even tabletop games that have similar aspects of D&D, but there's not really a huge amount of focus put on summoning, except for this. So it's really cool to actually see D&D have a method in order to really bolster that ability. Is it good though? Let's find out. Starting off at level 2, we get 2 features, and the first is Speech of the Woods. So we go ahead and pick up a new language here with the Sylvan language, which makes a lot of sense, seeing how this is kind of a Fae themed-ish kind of thing. But in addition, beasts can understand our speech, and we also can kind of figure out how they are communicating with us. This is an interesting ability, because it's not necessarily that you can speak with them, you can just kind of understand them. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are charmed by you or are necessarily going to tell you the truth when they are communicating with you in their own unique way. So in my opinion, it's a little clunky because it's very not well defined. So this is definitely something that you need to talk to your DM about before you just go doing it, because it's not a very clean way of doing things. Because of that, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. Picking up the Sylvan language is nice. However, this vague feature that allows you to kind of communicate with beasts, number one, it's limited to beasts, which makes sense for your summoning, but it's situational at best when it comes to a giant D&D world. You're not always going to be fighting beasts. You will be fighting all kinds of other creature types, and in that case, this ability is completely useless. So it's situational, and even then, even when you have a beast in front of you, you might not get everything out of it that you actually thought you were going to get out of it. So that's why it gets kind of a poor ranking. Also at level 2, we get Spirit Totem, and this is kind of the main reason that we are here, at least so far. So the Spirit Totem allows you to actually place a totem near you. You don't necessarily have to physically place a totem down, but definitely I would do that for flavor, and I think that's really, really cool. You're calling upon nature spirits. So as a bonus action, you can create a spirit, and some people literally create like a totem pole that actually represents whatever it is that that you're trying to represent with each of these 3 options we're going to talk about. But we can place it up to 60 feet away from us, and it creates an aura of 30 feet, which is really cool. As a bonus action, we can also move it up to 60 feet, which is really good. Being able to move this thing around and being able to adapt on the fly is really handy, because you would imagine an ability like this is kind of locked into place and must stay in a certain area, and so you've got to kind of draw the enemies into an area if you want to really get all the benefits out of it from your players. But this allows you to move it around. So as the battle evolves, you can constantly be moving these things around. We've talked about how druids don't have a ton to do on their bonus action. There are a couple of spells here and there that you get that can be nice, but overall you're pretty action heavy. We're not a Circle of the Moon druid like what we talked about last week, so we do have to wild shape on an action. So a lot of times we're going to have that bonus action empty to be able to do this, which is really, really good. We can choose one of these 3 different spirits to inhabit our totem, and we can choose the bear, the hawk, or the unicorn. The bear is there for augmenting the might and strength of your allies. So each creature of your choice in the aura gets temporary HP equal to 5 plus your druid level, and they also get advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws while inside that 30-foot aura. Not too bad at all. The Hawk Spirit, which is very interesting, whenever a creature makes an attack against a target that's within the aura, you can actually use your reaction to give advantage to that roll, which is really, really interesting. And you also have advantage on perception checks while in that area. And finally, the Unicorn Spirit gives advantage on all ability checks made to detect creatures within the aura. And if you cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points to a creature inside or outside of the aura, then each one also gains hit points equal to your druid level. This lasts for a minute, and you can only do this once per rest. This is a really good feature. It's very versatile in what you want it to be. So if you need to, stay out of grappling, or you've got a barbarian that really likes to grapple, that bear spirit is going to be really nice. They have temp HP and they have advantage on everything if they weren't wanting to rage. It basically gives you one part of rage plus some temp HP, which is interesting. Or you could give this to your fighter. You could give this to anybody who really wants to benefit from these things. If the enemy is forcing a bunch of strength saves on a spell or an effect that it's using, this can help with that as well. And temp HP is great, right? I think that's really, really awesome. Now this temp HP is not refillable, such as things like the Artificer with the Artillerist being able to pump that every bonus action. This is only when it shows up. So overall, I would say the bear is weaker than the other options. However, it's not useless by any means. The second one, of course, being able to give advantage to attack rolls just by using your reaction, that's not too bad. The creature can be you if you want it to be, but let's be real, in most cases, I would say that the answer would be use your reaction to grant it to someone else. That would be what I would do, is in this case be the support. And of course, perception checks are really, really nice. If you are about to take a rest and you want to look around at your campsite and you haven't used this yet, go ahead and blow it on perception checks, right? That's not a bad use of the aura at all. I think that's really cool. And finally, the Unicorn Spirit, of course, having ability checks to detect creatures is interesting. I think that's a little limited. You might get this once in a campaign, depending on the setting. However, being able to add to your healing, that is very useful, because this can be used on your friends. This could be used on your possible summons later if you wanted to as well. The bear spirit, though, with the temp HP is kind of busted with the ability to add that to summons as well. So we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But overall, this is a really cool feature that does a lot of different things, and it does them pretty well in a pretty balanced way. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. It's really nice. It's powerful. It's not busted, but I think it gets the job done, and I think it's really effective. At level 6, we get Mighty Summoner, and this is where things start taking off with our summons. Whenever we cast a spell that summons a beast or fey creature, or multiple beasts or fey, we can actually give them 2 extra HP per hit dice that it has, which is nice, and all damage that it deals with natural weapons is considered magical. This is very handy. We talked about the effectiveness. I've already used an icard above for this for the Moon Druid, talking about last week how our hits in wild shape hitting for magical damage is super nice. One big problem with summons in D&D is that they do not deal magical damage. And once you're getting in that 6th to 10th level range, you're going to start finding that most creatures that you fight have resistance to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. This gets around that. And so this makes your summons that much more effective. They also are tankier, right? At 6th level, we have 3rd level spells. So We just got Conjure Animals last level, and we're just getting more and more powerful things as we go. You know, Summon Fae is on the table now after Tasha's. There's plenty of awesome conjuring spells that we get as a druid that would definitely benefit from this. This is a 10 out of 10 feature. This is really, really nice for bolstering our summons, for making them that much more effective at dealing damage, at nothing else being sponges of damage and just messing up the action economy of the enemy, which is always really good. And of course, we're adding extra hit points, right? This doesn't have anything to do with their temp HP. So if you've got them also in the bear spirit, so you summon them, then throw out a bear spirit, which you can do in the same turn, then they have extra hit points and extra temporary HP. That's really effective. That's really strong. I love that combination. At level 10, we get to make our summons even stronger with Guardian Spirit. So anytime that one of our summoned beasts or fae is within our aura that we got back at level 2, we actually can help them regain hit points equal to half of our druid level. Currently that is 5, but that will of course go up as we go to eventually 10, if we get to 20th level, of course. And that's great. Just a passive heal going on all the time, which is really, really awesome. And of course, if we were to heal them using the Unicorn Spirit, we get bolstered healing there, plus just a passive heal from this. There's a lot going on here to really help our summons. And one thing that's really nice is when we talked about this in our general druid guide, when we've talked about this in other druids, we talk about how Conjure Animals is really the best option for summoning. And I still stand by that as far as the amount of damage that it can deal. However, this kind of thing really promotes you bringing a really powerful being, one really powerful thing, rather than a bunch of CR1 quarters. And so this gives you that much flexibility to be able to bring a bunch of other stuff and still be really effective. I'm always down for more options. That's always good. Overall, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. It's very effective. It's really nice being able to heal your summons. And again, it encourages you to summon more than just Conjure Animals. Finally, at level 14, we get Faithful Summons, and this is a doozy, and I think it's so fun. So whenever we are reduced to 0 HP or incapacitated, we immediately gain the benefits of the Conjure Animals spell as if it were cast as a 9th level spell. It summons 4 beasts of challenge rating 2 or lower that we choose, which is different from the original spell, mind you, and they appear within 20 feet of us. If they receive no commands, they just protect us, and they last for an hour without concentration until we dismiss it. Once we use this, we can't do it again until we finish a long rest. That is such a cool ability. Being able to just, when we go down, we immediately gain the benefits of this. It's not you use your reaction. It's not anything like that. You go down and there's 4 creatures around you of CR2 or lower ready to defend you and eat some enemy hits. Yes, it's level 14. So a CR2 beast is not going to take a lot of hits, if not more than one. And a properly placed high level AoE spell might just take them all out. However, if you had your aura down, then they would get some of the benefits of that possibly. You can then, once you get back up, you could buff them then if you needed to. But it's a free 9th level casting. You just get a 9th level spell slot for one of your best spells in the game. Yes, you're locked into not being able to choose the complete army that would be casting it using 1/4 CR creatures, but it's still really powerful. This is a 10 out of 10 feature. I think it's really, really nice to be able to have that extra defense. Yes, it's only once per day, but it's more than worth it. So where does this land us on the Circle of the Shepherd Druid? This is a fun druid. This is a lot of fun, and this is what really brings summoning to the forefront. Summoning, again, is not a really popular thing in D&D from a design standpoint. A lot of people want to play summoners, but there's just not a lot of features out there that really bolster what it is that you are summoning. You're just kind of stuck with whatever the spell gives you, which is fine, but they're never bulky enough, right? They're never strong enough. They never can hit quite hard enough without these buffs. And these buffs really work in meaningful ways. The biggest one obviously is going to be turning their attacks into magical attacks. That is doubling their damage on most creatures that they are going to face levels basically 7 on. And that is incredibly useful because we're going to be using these in an offensive manner most of the time. So that's really fantastic. Giving them extra health is great. We have extra ways of healing both our friends and our summons, which is really handy with our aura that we can place down. The aura is very movable. It's very mobile. We can do so much with it. Now, the big downside of this one, again, just like a lot of the other druids we've talked about, there is no buff to wild shape. You know, they really kind of focus down on letting the moon druid do its thing and buff wild shape in that way. And outside of the blighted druid, which we covered a while ago on the channel, that's up in the icon above, we haven't covered a druid outside of the blighted and moon druid that buff your wild shape really in any meaningful ways. Now that's going to change in the coming weeks, but for now, you know, wild shape isn't being buffed in any way, so you're looking for other ways to be useful. And this gives you a lot of really interesting ways to be useful. And so I think that's great. Overall, I'm going to give the Shepherd Druid a 9 out of 10. Is it perfect? No. Is it better than the Moon Druid? I don't think so, but it is close. I definitely think it's more than viable. I think it's worth playing, absolutely. And I think that anyone who plays one of these is going to have an absolute blast. It does fall a little short just in its ability to tank. We don't have any kind of tankiness to us, so we are still a little frail, but we do have a little bit of extra protection in our summons. And in that, we're really only limited by our spell slots and concentration. So that's pretty much it. So otherwise, this is a really strong druid and I definitely recommend playing it. So that is all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Later this week, we are going to be building one of these together, and I hope you guys are looking forward to that because I certainly am. If you haven't already, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, of course. And until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.